The Cursed Lighthouse, The Mystery of the Fog Watchers. Chapter 1. The Dark Crag and the Architect's Folly. The sea is a realm of infinite power, a place where light and shadow wrestle for dominance, and nowhere was the shadow darker than at the jagged, unforgiving rock they called the Dark Crag. For over a century, this isolated stone citadel, barely breaching the relentless tides, had devoured ships, a graveyard of splintered masts, rusted iron, and forgotten men. The local fishermen, whose families had been lost generation after generation, spoke of a debt, an ancient pact where the crag claimed its due from the sea spirits. In the year 1887, the Admiralty, weary of the mounting insurance claims and the chilling volume of disaster reports, decreed that the crag would be challenged. It needed a warden, a sentinel of steel, glass, and stone, the stargazer's light. The architect was Archibald Doherty, a man known for his unflinching faith in engineering over superstition. He declared in his initial plans, "We must build higher than the tide, stronger than the tempest. This light will banish the sea's greed." The construction was a nightmare. The tides swallowed materials, storms tore down temporary scaffolding, and the ceaseless wind wore away the morale of the laborers. When the chief stonemason, a gruff but experienced man named Finn, mysteriously lost his footing on a clear morning and fell onto the black, unforgiving rocks far below, the workers demanded to stop. They whispered of the crag's hunger, claiming that death was the first payment on the light's creation. Doherty, blinded by his pride, dismissed the talk as peasant folly, hiring new men and driving the project forward with grim determination. Finally, in a raging storm on the night of November 12, 1888, the Stargazer's light was inaugurated. Its giant Fresnel lens, a marvel of precision optics, cast a piercing white beam across the churning darkness. Chapter 2. The First Watch and the Whispers. 3 men were chosen to maintain the Stargazer's light and keep the perpetual flame of safety burning. The chief keeper was Captain Henry Hamilton. A former naval officer, he was a hard, skeptical man whose discipline was his shield against the loneliness of the job. He was dismissive of anything he couldn't measure or repair. The assistant was Samuel Crawley. Pious and quiet, Samuel was constantly clinging to his weathered Bible, a man who believed deeply in both the power of God and the malice of the devil. And finally, there was the young apprentice, Ethan Blackwood, nervous and eager to please, who found the perpetual darkness of the surrounding sea far more unnerving than he let on. Life inside the towering stone structure was a monotonous, grinding routine of polishing brass, winding the clockwork mechanism, and tending the colossal lamp. But within the first month, the atmosphere began to curdle. It started with small anomalies. The oil levels in the reservoir would drop inexplicably fast. Footsteps would echo on the spiraling iron staircase when all 3 men were known to be in the kitchen. One damp evening, as the lens rotated, Ethan's face went pale. "Captain," he whispered, his eyes darting toward the cold, sweating stone wall. "Did you hear that? A whisper. It sounded like a name being called right from the tower walls." Hamilton, busy examining a pressure gauge, merely grunted. "That is the sea, lad," he said, his voice flat. "The wind mourning its lost ships. Oil the mechanism, Blackwood, and worry less about ghosts." But Samuel Crawley knew better. He often stood by the lantern room window, staring out as the light swept over the water, muttering verses under his breath. "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." He didn't fear the devil outside. He feared the devil they had locked inside with the light. The true horror, however, lay in the logbooks. The keepers began noting a strange, pervasive feeling of being watched, not from the open sea, but from the darkness pressed against the glass. Chapter 3. The Light's Hunger. The air inside the stargazer's light grew thick with unvoiced dread. The tension peaked on a night of almost supernatural calm when a thick, unnaturally heavy blanket of fog rolled in, muffling the world. "Blackwood, up to the lantern room," Hamilton barked. "The beam is weak. Clean the main glass." Ethan, already trembling, grabbed his rag and ran up the iron steps. He was gone for perhaps 2 hours. Hamilton, focused on the foghorn that boomed every 30 seconds, didn't notice the silence until Samuel pointed it out. "Ethan hasn't returned, Captain." They searched the kitchen, the sleeping quarters, the clockwork room. Finally, they ascended to the lantern room. The door was ajar, the colossal Fresnel lens spinning in its bath of mercury, casting its blinding beam into the gloom. But no Ethan. Hamilton, adrenaline masking his panic, rushed to the window. "He must have stepped out on the balcony for air," he yelled, though the thought contradicted every safety rule. But Samuel was staring at the heart of the light itself. "Captain, look closely at the central lens. Do you see it?" Hamilton squinted. Inside the perfect rotating beam, there was a minute flicker, a persistent dark smudge that seemed to swim just behind the glass. "Nonsense, Crawley. It's a smudge," Hamilton said, snatching the cleaning cloth and furiously wiping the exterior of the glass. But the darkness remained, fixed in the beam, looking almost like a tiny, coiled silhouette. They found Ethan's body the next morning, broken and twisted on the sharp rocks below the cliff face. His face was frozen in a silent, desperate scream, his eyes wide open, staring upward toward the light. The official report, signed by Hamilton, read, "Accidental fall in heavy fog." But the keepers knew. That face was not the face of a man who slipped. It was the face of a man who saw his deepest fear given form and felt the final paralyzing touch of true terror. Chapter 4. The Shadow in the Focus. The replacement keeper, James Fisher, arrived 2 weeks later. He was quiet and professional, but he carried an almost constant look of anxious scrutiny. He quickly noticed the change in Samuel. Samuel Crawley no longer read his Bible to the others. He spent every waking moment in the lantern room, his hand often pressed against the cool glass. He wrote obsessively in his journal, his neat handwriting growing frantic and illegible. He eventually confessed his theory to James. "The light, James, it doesn't repel the darkness, it magnifies it. It draws the personal shadow out of our minds, the hidden guilt, the deepest sin, the most secret fear, and gives it form right there in the focus of the beam. It is waiting for us to confess." James tried to reason with him. "That's madness, Samuel. It's just polished glass and oil. The isolation is getting to you." But Samuel's diary entries painted a darker picture. Day 212. Hamilton denies it. He says the shadows are stress and bad diet, but I see the shape. It isn't outside the glass. It is in the light itself, a distortion in the focus. It knows my trespass, the thing I prayed to forget, and it is waiting for me to look long enough. Day 214. The light is warm. It is comforting. It offers me peace if I just step into the beam. It says Ethan is happy now. No more cold, no more fear. I pray for strength, but the whisper is so loud now. The climax came during a fierce, brutal winter storm. The stargazer's light was battered by waves that reached halfway up the tower. The radio connection failed completely. In the morning, the light was still burning, but the atmosphere was eerily quiet. Hamilton and James searched the tower. They found Samuel's diary on the console, lying open near the lens. His final entry was barely recognizable. "It is smiling at me now. It knows my sin, my secret fear better than I know myself. The light, it is inside me now. I am going to meet the light. Farewell, Captain. Forgive me, James." Samuel Crawley was gone. The door was locked from the inside, the heavy safety railing intact. No body was ever recovered. Chapter 5. The Captain's Final Watch. With the second clean disappearance, the Admiralty sent a small, heavily armed team of investigators. They found Captain Hamilton broken. He was rocking back and forth in the kitchen, his uniform stained, his eyes wide and vacant. "Where are your men? What happened to Crawley?" demanded the lead investigator. Hamilton began to weep, repeating the same terrifying mantra. "The light! It needed them! It took them! I saw Samuel enter the beam. He walked into the heat, the glare as if being pulled by an invisible hand, and then he was just gone." He pointed a trembling finger toward the lantern room. "That light is not a guide. It is a trap, a hungry eye." The investigators quickly dismissed his ravings as lighthouse madness, the psychological strain of extreme isolation and weather exposure.